Hello guys and welcome to this video. Now I've almost been scammed again. I did a video very similar to this about 6 months ago now I think, and it's actually been my most popular video by far, and it was the real versus fake SSK019 Seiko. I recently needed to buy an SSK019, which is kind of a sister watch of that. The SSK019 is a US exclusive model, and it has this quite unusual red and blue chapter ring. Now, one of my clients wanted me to mod a watch with that chapter ring, so I literally had to get the full watch, and we're going to change a few of the other parts as well. But if you're new to the channel, by the way, that is what I usually do. I modify watches for clients around the world, and they are mostly, recently at least, SSK models for GMTs and so on. You can learn more about what I do on svkwatches.ae. The link will be in the description. So, long story short, I bought this watch, and based on my last video, initially I was thinking, okay, yeah, this came from a seller on eBay, very highly reviewed seller. Wasn't the cheapest one, definitely. I know there are some fakes out there, so I needed to get hold of this watch relatively quickly. I went through the process, got it, and didn't think much of it until I started to look at modifying this. And I realized there was a few things that were definitely wrong here. Now, don't worry that it's not running, by the way. It's just been packed in a box waiting for this video. So in terms of overall look and feel, indistinguishable, especially as I haven't actually seen this model before. I've seen pretty much every other SSK model out there because I've modded most of them, but this one I hadn't seen before. So I was obviously looking at the usual things I mentioned in my last video. There are a few bezel notches to look out for. There might have been some other parts on the dial, etc. This version didn't seem to have any of those tells. But as soon as I realized I couldn't fit an aftermarket bracelet on this case, and the bezel literally pops off with the strength just in your fingers, I realized something was wrong. So I had to do the right thing, get the genuine model. This one came from Long Island Watch. You guys probably know Island Watch on YouTube as well. I can guarantee this one is 100% real, and I'll show you what it comes with and some of the differences. Now, because I've got plenty of genuine SSKs in stock as well, I did notice straight away a few differences in the packaging. Okay, guys, please know, I've read some of your comments. I know that there are different markets for Seiko watches, and sometimes they're made in different places around the world. For example, a made in Japan model should be made in Japan. If it says made in Japan on the dial, both of these do, that means it has to have been made in Japan. It can't have been made in China or anywhere else. Okay, in some cases, if the movement says made in Japan, that could also mean the movement was made there. The case doesn't necessarily need to be made in Japan, and so on. A lot of you were commenting on it saying it's different regions, they make them in different places, there's slight differences. I agree with that, but this is a US only colorway. Why would they make a US exclusive model in more than one factory around the world? So that's the first thing I was thinking, and I'd love it if someone from Seiko could actually confirm this for me, for this model and the previous one. All right. This model has the grey dial and the red and blue chapter ring. The previous one I looked at was the kind of two-tone model that I usually use for the Guinness mods. I'll show you what this one turns into later, of course, but let's have a look at the overall packaging to see what the key differences are. Some of you might have already spotted it. Now, on the real side, this nice new Seiko style box. The last fake model I got was not in one of these. It was in another type of Seiko box I hadn't actually ever seen before. All the new SSKs should come with a grey kind of instruction book and a warranty card. I'm sure this one will be, surprisingly, even from Island Watch, they're not stamping their cards. But anyway, no one really cares about that, especially when we're going to modify it. The other side, this box looks the same, but can you see the difference in the color? Okay, it is more beige kind of color marl than the gray one of the real version. I can't get this across on camera, but the cushion that you get, though it looks very similar, okay, and this one didn't have the silica beads like the previous versions I had. This one is definitely rougher feeling than this one. The cushion is a little rougher. Now, these are all things you wouldn't realize if you just got this one, honestly. The box lids. Now, after inspecting these for a while, obviously there's a difference in the color and the finish a little bit. The logo imprint looks kind of similar, but look at the right letter O. On this side, the letter O in Seiko. I couldn't unsee it once I saw it, and that is because it is almost a perfect circle. The actual Seiko logo, the O is a bit more of an oval shape, and it's surprising that they managed to neglect that on the fake version. Now, I'm sure Seiko themselves would not be making that mistake. The outer boxes, not much to differentiate. They are very, very similar. The US versions tend to have this big sticker on the side warning about various things, including if the watch has a battery and so on. So I'm not really bothered about the paper boxes, but these boxes are definitely different. For example, I cannot put the lid of this one. It's really tight to fit onto the other one. So they are very similar, but different. Hang tags, this was the one from the fake watch. And by the way, this also came with a booklet. There's nothing stopping a seller putting genuine booklets with fake watches though. So this to me doesn't look anything wrong with this one, honestly. That looks okay. Remember, some of these sellers on eBay are kind of reselling Amazon returns. And if someone buys a genuine watch off Amazon, swaps it for a fake one, sends it back to Amazon, they wouldn't know. And then eventually it'll end up on eBay through one of these resellers. So again, the reseller wouldn't even know that it was potentially fake, and therefore passes the kind of scam down the line. Let's have a look at the watches, and I'll show you some of those key issues that I came across. So on the front of the watches, you really wouldn't be able to tell much of a difference at all. The only thing I can tell is this bezel feels a lot lighter than the genuine. When you turn it, it's definitely a lot more easy to turn. The stickers on the bracelet here were as expected as well. You can sort of see, especially around the indices, can you see how it's lifting a little bit on the right dial there? I feel like the way this dial has been made is not quite the same process as this dial. And again, why would they make this one color dial that's exclusive for the US market in two different ways, perhaps in two different places? I will check the lume in 1 second, but genuinely you really wouldn't be able to tell much of a difference. The hands are very similar. If I can zoom in just a touch more, you can see on the second hand, the central pin is slightly wider on the genuine one than this one. The brushing on the hands, I'd say the hand surrounds on the fake version on the right are definitely wider. The GMT hand looks almost the same. Now the Made in Japan text and various other texts on the genuine model are somewhat brighter than they are on the fake one. The spacing and all seems kind of similar. I wouldn't say that was an easy way to tell. The dial kind of waviness to me here. They used to have really thick marker surrounds. Some of the first kind of fake GMTs from Seiko that I saw had really thick marker surrounds. These don't anymore, but they seem to have this kind of this swooping up towards the marker. Logo is definitely a little bit different. It's quite hard to capture it, but it's a bit thicker on the fake one. The size is pretty much the same, but it's definitely a bit thicker. So kind of all the metal elements, all the applied elements are just a bit thicker. Let's have a look at the lume shot quickly. So I'm just charging them up together at the same time. And you can see in person, The Genuine model is slightly brighter. I don't know if that's coming across on the camera. And I can feel like the one on my right is starting to fade away a little bit more. They do glow really green in person. The camera seems to turn that tint towards more blue. I'm going to say that the loom is still relatively impressive on this version and it's quite even across everything, but side by side, you definitely pick this as the winner. So all of what I've just told you is actually quite hard to spot in reality. If you were picking this one up on its own, you would have no idea. All right. The main reason I even decided to try this combination was because I started to modify it. And there was one other key thing I wanted to show you. So let's have a look at the back of these two to determine what that was. So first telltale sign was the rotor. The rotor you can see on the right hand fake version is all sorts of different finishes and quite a weird, slightly reflective finish on the main part. This one is much more matte. It's a brushed finish underneath the Seiko logo and it's got a kind of a bead blasted edge. That is a very common finish that I've seen many times. I'll show you inside both watches in a moment as well, but you'll see an instant difference there. Now, the rest of the case is extremely similar. I couldn't honestly tell this one could be fake straight away. Even if we look underneath here, this was one of my telltale signs before. If I line up the bezel to 12, you should be able to see a faint notch at 6 o'clock and also at 12 o'clock. There is a little space between the bezel, the rotating bezel, and the case, and it's actually part of the bezel design. On the fake one, I saw the same thing, and this is the first time I've seen it. So perhaps whoever's making these watched my recent video and decided they wanted to have a go at matching that as well. Now, unfortunately though, they didn't really succeed because it's so easy to remove this bezel. Let me show you how easy this is. There you go. A bezel should not come off that easily. Now, granted, I did try this earlier, and so I've had the bezel sort of on and off a couple of times because I couldn't quite believe what was happening, but that is how easy it was to remove this bezel. So that should not happen, although it makes modding quite easy. Just rotating it slightly and literally lifting it with your fingers, that should not happen on any Seiko, especially not one that is supposedly $400 approximately retail price. So if you have got one of these, try remove your bezel by hand. Don't worry, if it does come off, it's just as easy to put it back. On the Genuine one, you cannot do that. You would have to use a bezel removal tool, as I usually do with all the SSKs, and you can tell straight away that this bezel is just better fitting. So that is another way to spot the difference. Now, I'll also zoom in on the chapter ring. Can you see the difference in font? We've got far more elongated numbers, and I mean, it's going to get distorted by the Cyclops. The Cyclops, interestingly, is about the same on both. But you can see, if I look at the number 2, number 4, around the chapter ring, we definitely have a totally different font there. Again, why would Seiko they only make this chapter ring for this model. Why would they make it in either 2 separate factories in a completely different way? And why would they do that? So I'm near certain whoever's supplying these is just supplying a fake watch. So I've just taken the case backs off here to show you a little bit in more detail the movements inside and the differences in the rotor. You can see that even this version has made in Japan on that rotor, and that certainly isn't the same rotor as we get in this Genuine version. So unless Seiko are printing made in Japan on 2 different rotors made in 2 different places, that's the only explanation. Now, I will show you an example list I received from a WhatsApp contact. This is someone, because my phone number for WhatsApp is on my website in case anyone wants to reach out to me for Seiko mods and so on. This was the list of watches I received with their prices. Now, I didn't engage with this person, they just send me these things sometimes. And I realized that they are selling not just Seiko, but they are selling other brands too. They clearly saw that I was dealing with Seiko, so they sent me the Seiko catalog. And you can see some of the prices here are just astonishing. There's no way Seiko themselves are going to be selling watches at those sort of prices to dealers who are then selling them on for, $300+ I imagine, I don't know what a dealer price is, but perhaps Mark from Island Watch can clarify for us what would be the cost price of this exact model I've got here, because I bought it from him and I think it was somewhere in the region of $370 or so. What would that cost him? Because I'm pretty sure that these people are the ones that are selling the fake versions to unsuspecting buyers that are then reselling them on eBay, Amazon, whatever. So please be careful, guys. If you get offered a cheap SSK, especially and it was one of the models in that list, on eBay, on Facebook Marketplace, on WhatsApp, in your watch groups, whatever, just think twice, because I have come across more and more of these in the market. Stick to trusted sellers. I should have done it myself, but then again, I am able to take that risk because I know what to look for. I can't do anything with this model. So even if you think, oh, it's all right, I'll save a few bucks, I'll get the fake one, no one will know. Yes, until you try and change the bracelet. The bracelets that I've got for my upgraded SSK models do not fit this version. So I'm probably near certain that the glass wouldn't fit either. And I would never sell a watch where you could remove the bezel with just your fingers. So please remember, you get what you pay for, but let this be a warning to you for always sticking to authorized dealers or trusted suppliers. And if you are buying this watch in a place where you don't usually know some of those things, have a look at it really carefully before you buy it. If it's got a nice flat dial like this one, if the bezel action is nice and tight, even if they allow you to try and put a strap code bracelet on it, if you're planning to change the bracelet, bring one along and see if you can change it before you make the purchase. If there's something off about it or it's too good to be true, remember some of these models are US exclusive. So if you're buying it anywhere outside the US, ask where they came from. If they didn't come from the US, well, there's a sign as well. Anyway, guys, I'm off to modify this into something special, and I'll see you when I see you next. Hopefully this was useful, and yes, keep an eye out on those fake watches being sold.